Welcome to the United States of America podcast. I am your host, Niti, and we are broadcasting live from the Food Church here on North Carolina. If you've missed past episodes, please be sure to take the time to watch the first episode and watch the rest like a documentary. We are a people at peace, and we have declared peace to all nations around the world. This is not a marketing or a promotional channel. We are shining a light on knowledge that is being hidden from you, and we are sharing the truth about your birthright and your inheritance. We have moderators who are assisting in the comment section. Be kind and self-govern. If you have questions, please put them in all caps and only enter them once per show. I am joined on air normally with Greg Clarkson. He's got another farm thing going on today, and he has to escort some folks on his land. So he'll be back next week. But now I am proud to introduce you to Justice Anna Maria, who is joining us live from Alaska today. Welcome, Anna.
Hello, Niti.
How are you?
Well, I had a really violent sneezing attack this morning, which is why I'm late. Not unusual for me. I've had it all my life. My grandmother used to tell me that pixies had gotten into my nose overnight and liked to sleep in my nose. So, anyway,
Well,
theory, you know.
I was just thinking about, I've been having fun with the articles lately. I'm really loving the way that you're speaking the disillusion of all the corporatocracy into reality. And I've been envisioning it for a long time. I mean, clearly they're circling the drain. And I thought that, the message last night was really wonderful. Hopefully, Mr. Trump will receive the message and find out who he is. I mean, actually, I don't know if he ever gets your messages or not.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so hopefully he is going to see what's going on and he will do something good. Let's see what he does. He could just make it easier on himself. I mean,
And
you know.
everyone else. And everyone else.
And everyone else. What is it with these people, Anna, that, I think about like how our parents used to be like, go love your brother, go love your sister, like you're going to share a t-shirt until you just, make nice or whatever. And maybe he needs that. Maybe they need that.
You know, there's a certain amount of pride and arrogance in all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And an unwillingness to ask for help.
Mm.
And I think that that ingrained idea that we have to solve it ourselves and we have to know everything ourselves and do everything ourselves can get in our way from the kind of cooperative problem solving that's really needed.
Mm.
And so, here's Mr. Trump. Now, the WEF, World Economic Forum, which is nothing but an unelected club, has posted a $45 billion murder contract on his head.
Wow. I mean, thanks, Julius Caesar. He's the one who came up with this mob rule stuff, right? I mean, has anybody seen what's the movie out right now? Gladiator 2. Like, that's what they were doing back then.
Right.
It's utter chaos and confusion and lies and immorality when, there that's the training, Anna. It's that, they don't believe they can ever be wrong. They can't just say, "Oh, I didn't know. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
oops." I mean, if we haven't learned anything else from reading your work, we know that everything that we've ever been told was a lie. So then we can't we shouldn't feel any kind of way for not knowing something. I mean,
Right.
but the evidence is everywhere, just the old world buildings alone are evidence. I mean, do you think that the people that are alive right now are the same kind of people that built Italy? I mean, the whole city on the water.
No.
Right. They'd have to ask somebody how to do. I mean,
Right. And, actually, our, humankind has had many iterations, many different civilizations have risen and fallen, and we haven't even learned from those civilizations that came before us. You know
Right.
yourself, there's so much wisdom and even, history that has been preserved in the Vedas.
Yes. I mean,
And
the Bhagavad Gita itself, like all of what it says, if we can receive it as not a fable, is incredible.
right. And so we don't even make advantage of those things that have been left to us as a guide and as a explanation and history of the world. And so we're ill-equipped to deal with what we find in the world, you know. And we're still stumbling our way forward, but it could be so much faster if we just released our pride and asked each other for help. I mean, Mr. Putin didn't have to come forward with the evidence that the World Economic Forum had essentially put out a murder contract on Donald Trump. He didn't have to, but he did. And, he partially explained his reasoning, which was that this wasn't just about Donald Trump or about, deposing another leader here or there. It's about the freedom of mankind from these corporate entities. It's the essential criminal nature of these corporatocracies that they're trying to establish, where corporations would rule over men and would replace the governments of men. And so getting rid of these private corporations that have engaged in all of these illegal and unlawful acts becomes a goal for the entire population of the planet to realize that these corporations have become a real problem and to start dealing with them by liquidating them, nationalizing them, and basically taking them over and forcing new leadership on them. And so we can do that because these are just corporations. They're not living people. They don't have the same rights, and they are not owed the same law or consideration. And so, in my view, we, the actual land and soil jurisdiction government of this country, which also has access to American admiralty law, can go in and liquidate or confiscate the bulk of the assets of the WEF members because everybody has incorporated in our country.
Even the cities, even the counties, even the states. Yeah. So where do we start? I mean, I was looking at your Mexican standoff view. I was like, that seems very familiar to me. So
Yeah, well,
can you speak on that? Yeah, I want to hear what you have to say about that because.
Well, exactly what kind of question did you have, Niti?
I mean, when you're in this standoff, I guess we can't really talk too much about it because then it's kind of just because of this platform, it's probably not a good idea to get too much into it. But I would love to be able to be a fly on the wall and listen to you guys talking maybe about that perspective, I mean, you guys are our elders, right? So like I'm just so intrigued and wanting to hear all the ways in which you're looking at that scenario because that's exactly where we're at, right?
Well, the thing is that jurisdiction, the way jurisdiction was set up, is very complex.
Mm.
And, for example, when you have a federation and then you establish a confederation, you've got two membership organizations that have different kinds of members.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a union state, and then you have a state of the union. You have a state of the union, and you have a state of state.
Mm.
And all of these things um, are matched up in pairs because they are bridges between different jurisdictions.
Mm.
It's like you say that you and I were partners, and you were operating in the jurisdiction of the sea, and I was operating in the jurisdiction of the land, and we would communicate together, and we would be talking about different operations that were going on in each of our jurisdictions for our mutual benefit. We'd be working together as a federation and a confederation, you see.
Yeah.
And that's the way that whole thing was organized. But there are multiple pairs of these federation confederation relationships. And there's one particular federation and confederation relationship that is actually a perpetual union. And the concept of a perpetual union is not something that we can normally talk about in law because everything changes, everything is limited, everything has
Mm.
a lifespan, things happen, right?
Right.
So it, we can't form contracts that talk about perpetual unions unless there is a basis for that in natural and universal law. And the only
Right.
perpetual union that exists is the union of land and soil. And the
Ah.
reason, yeah, the reason for that you can observe directly is that the soil is defined as the top 6 inches of the land, right?
Right.
So between the soil and the subsoil. But what
Mm-hmm.
happens if you scrape that 6 inches of soil away? Well, you have immediately six more
Mm-hmm.
inches, right? And so that's why the soil and the subsoil, if you want to think of it that way, um, are inseparable. They are forever joined. They have a perpetual union. And that is the perpetual union. And it's improper to speak of any other entity or any other perpetual union anywhere ever because no other quote unquote union can be established so reliably and so predictably under natural law.
Ah, so they couldn't take away our perpetual land and soil no matter what they did. This is what our forefathers did by creating and establishing that jurisdiction. Oh my God, they're so brilliant. I mean, every time I learn more about what it was that they had to think about, it's like, what in the world?
Well,
Wow. Wow.
yeah, but back then they knew about the Unum Sanctum Trust. They
Mm,
they knew Latin. They knew all of these traditions. They knew that the Scots functioned under Roman civil law.
right.
You know, they knew that the law of the sea was based on Roman civil law. We don't know any of that anymore. Nobody knows that.
Right.
Nobody teaches that in law schools. And so you have an entire generation of attorneys who have no concept. They have no
What? It's like a few generations, isn't it? It must be at least five.
well, I think it really took the turn for the worst in the 1960s, about 1965.
Okay.
And at that point, they stopped teaching the law of the land and soil and started teaching basically just contract tort law and
Mm,
law of the sea. And
mhm.
so you've got at least two generations of lawyers who don't have a proper background in the history of their own profession or the different variations of law and where they come from and how they operate and how they're different. So actually, I've got a better education in law than 99% of the lawyers.
Believe it. Yeah, absolutely. What are we going to do? We need our law class, Anna. We're ready.
Well, we need to educate people first and foremost, and just because the Unum Sanctum Trust set things up in this manner
Mm.
doesn't mean we have to keep it in this manner. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we're creative people. We can think of other ways to organize our lives. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there is a logic and there's a beauty to the air, land, and sea um, demarcations of jurisdiction, which they set up. But it's not the only way to organize or conduct business.
You must
And
have a plan, Anna. You must have a plan.
well, what I have is I see universal law. I see natural law.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm saying to myself, why do we need all this other rigmarole?
Right.
Why do we need all of this convoluted, detailed, uh, all this complexity? Why do we need all this complexity? Well,
Only if you want to confuse people, right? That's what these tricksters wanted to do, is they want to confuse people.
and to a certain extent, I'm sure that it got more complex as more questions arose, and therefore the need for more answers under the common law. But I mean, at a certain point, you just step back from it and you go, okay, we were given 10 commandments. We couldn't follow those.
Right.
So, it was cut down to 2 commandments and we're still not even able to follow those. So, why don't we just throw up our hands and say, well, here's the goal, folks. We want to love the creator and the creation, and we want to treat everybody as we'd like to be treated ourselves. Masochists stand aside. And so, you know, but you would think that these old laws, I mean, those are laws that predate Christianity by thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
And we tend to give credit to Jesus for that, but it wasn't his unique idea. Those same principles, the golden rule, and the primacy of the creator, are concepts that span the globe and have always been here. As long as there's been a human species and mankind, uh, those same laws operate. They are natural laws.
It works for the beasts of the planet, Anna. If the beasts of the planet are able to operate under that, there is an understanding and a respect between the beasts.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it is observable in nature when people walk up onto, when you're observing nature, you can see that amongst all the other beasts of the planet. And if they are able to follow it without a word, then surely we can follow it.
Well, you would think. Um, but there is this propensity on the part of mankind to create rules and to write rules down and then try to force everybody else to obey the rules that this group of people has set. And it never works.
It hasn't been for that long, though, Anna, right? I mean, I'm sorry. It hasn't been that long that people have been writing these things down. I mean, even our forefathers were supposedly just using ink and feathers, right?
Well, I think that the Code of Hammurabi was established somewhere around 2500 BC. But still, in the great span of geologic time and the time that we have been here as a species, it's still a relatively, recent proliferation of laws that we're all trying to force ourselves and everybody else to obey. And no matter how we try to simplify that and kind of crank it down into, its most abstracted and simplest form, um, we're still not listening as a species. We're still not getting it. And as a result, we have this entire proliferation of a profession, the quote unquote legal profession, that acts as a predator against the rest of us and is chasing us around like little policemen trying to dictate every aspect of our lives and trying to gain control over every aspect of our lives. Now, let's break that down into a microcosm. Can I, Niti, force you to believe anything?
Nope.
Can I force you to feel anything?
Nope. It's
Can I,
already, yeah. We choose it. We're choosing it.
right, can I control you? No.
No. Anybody who says that, this is all lies and immorality. I keep saying it over and over again. I'm like, nobody, first of all, I thought that was my first parental lesson. You can't control the baby ever. And they only get more and more powerful as they get bigger and more uncontrollable. So anyone trying to control them is doing a disservice to them and yourself.
Well, and so what happens? We have all these systems of law that are designed to do what? To control us from the exterior, right? Not from the interior, from the exterior. And we have these religions that are seeking to control us from the interior, right? And what really needs to happen is for us to control us.
Right. That's
We
why the religionists are the corporatocracy too, friends. And they don't want to hear that either, Anna.
Well, but the truth is that whether you're looking at it from an inward or from an outward perspective, you at the end of the day, what needs to happen is for you to govern your own actions, right? You have to have a reason and a belief system that is going to control you, all right? And until we have that, then we have this constant losing battle against criminality. I mean, people should be able to choose against criminality for themselves because there are very good reasons to do so, right? It should be
And
logical.
they
And
can. They can. I think, you know what else, too? The bad training, Anna, is the corporatocracy wants folks to believe that their belief systems are not changeable or pliable. And, what are beliefs? They're just thoughts you keep thinking.
right, they're basically theories that you're accepting.
Right. And you can just change your mind.
Or you can have new information that changes your mind. All of a sudden you realize, a corporation doesn't really exist.
Oh,
Ooh,
it's a dead fiction. Oh, what's a dead fiction? I remember when I was studying your work for the very first time, I'm like, what's a dead fiction? Oh my gosh. It's the zombie apocalypse. Oh, I get it now.
right. Well, it's anything that you create out of thin air, name, label, describe, that isn't really truly real. And people look at me the first time they grasp this and they go, "What? GM doesn't exist?" Well, in a sense it does. It's an organization, you know. They've put together this framework of people. They've put together a purpose for this organization of people, and they've gathered material and created, plants that produce automobiles. But no, it doesn't really exist in the natural world. It exists as a legal fiction entity that someone dreamed up and just called General Motors. You
Yeah.
know, and so once people start really thinking about this, they realize that there's a fundamental difference between you and I, terra firma here, and something called Anna Maria Reisinger. It's just a label. It's what's called in law a utility. I have a utility. My name is a utility that I can use, okay, or not use. If I want to, I can call myself, as I once famously said, I could call myself Lady Delcheza. Why not? I can come up with whatever name I want and apply it to whatever I want. And there's really no law against it. And there's really no reason that, my parents happen to like the name Anna Maria. Okay. I could have been a Donna Gabriella. I could have been a, a Patricia uh, Ann. I mean, think about how arbitrary this is. And think also that this was just given to me. Okay, that's your given name, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're a little baby laying there in your cradle, and it is like the parade of the fairy godmothers coming and sprinkling dust on you. Oh, your name is going to be Anna Maria, and your surname is going to be Risinger, and you're going to be a white girl, and you're going to be a Protestant, and all this stuff just gets dumped on you totally arbitrarily as a result of your starting point. Um, so I always have to laugh. There's the movie, Steve Martin's movie, The Jerk, and he begins, I was born the son of poor black sharecroppers, and here he is, white as milk, right? And you're going, what? But from the perspective of a baby, yeah, he was born the son of poor black sharecroppers, and so, similarly, we all go through this process where we're dumped on by the environmental uh, matrix that we find ourselves in. And we tend to allow ourselves to be defined by that.
Mm.
There's a cultural matrix. Oh, you're an American. There's your cultural matrix. And you grow up in it. And you don't question it for the most part. But really, we should. We should question all of it and find our own answers, because each one of us individually has all of those decision making competences, and we have all those responsibilities. You
Yep. I mean, and then you have people putting words on you all the time, even later, like the doctor when they give you the diagnosis, which is absurd and horrific, and no one should receive that. And they're just trying to put words on you, and we can decide to just change that at any moment. I hope that anyone listening today maybe will pause and start to receive what we're saying. Maybe they're ready to receive this today, this message, Anna, that, you can, someone has put something on you that makes you feel a way that allows you not to operate in the full amount of joy that you should be operating in. You could just toss it aside and just say, I choose no. I choose no. I mean, I remember being told by my mom constantly, how I'm need to calm down, and I'm this high flying kite and she can't ground me and whatever, because I didn't believe all the crap. I knew something was going on and it didn't make any sense, and I'd be questioning everything, and of course, what? Then you're the black sheep of the family or something. And then one day I decided, I don't know if I'm the black sheep. I might be the black goat leading the herd of sheep. I don't know. But what I know is I can't pretend that all this crap isn't exactly the bullshit that it looks like. And I had to just decide, okay, no, the ground is firm over here. I can stand on it. I can move on it, and it works. And everybody right now should know that, nothing's happening to you. Everything's happening for you. And you could just decide right now in this red hot minute that you are no longer going to struggle and suffer anymore. I used to think, Anna, before, when the kids were small, I was like, gosh, if we just had a little bit more money, we could do this, that, the other. And then one day I was like, I don't have to just think that I need more money. I should just go. I mean, one day after this is long after we suffered through the loss of our daughter and all this other stuff. And one day I went outside and I just screamed at the universe, like, I don't know what you want from me, but you're going to make the top of my funnel bigger than the bottom. And I don't know what that looks like, but I'm done. I'm done with this. And do you know what? I stopped making budgets. I stopped putting a cap on my life.
Mm-hmm.
And magically, the top of my funnel is just bigger than the bottom. I mean, it's maybe not this much bigger than the top bottom, but whatever. It's enough where we don't have to suffer and struggle. You've just decided. So everyone could decide if they want to do that.
Everyone can decide the life they really truly want to live, but they don't think about the life that they really truly want to live. They think about the life that's set before them.
Well, because, Anna, we weirdos, I've got my head in the sand and they just can't afford to do that. Someone actually told me that one day, and I was just looking at her because I'm like, I'm standing here living the life that I want to live, and you're watching me and you're participating. And so obviously my head is not in the sand.
No, and the weird thing is that people tend to think that whatever is status quo, whatever is all there is, and that's all there can be. And where that thinking comes from is deep indoctrination that they receive as children, um, being limited by their parents, by their school teachers, later by their college professors or their drill sergeants, and still later by their employers, putting them in this little box and saying, okay, you're a this, you're a first grader, you're a sixth grader, you're a senior, you're a freshman in college, you're a this, you're a that. Okay, and everybody takes these little boxes, these little labels and descriptions, and they fit themselves into these boxes, and then they have a hard time imagining what they could do that is outside that box. When I grew up, there was very much there was a time frame too. Not only were you characterized and labeled and identified and limited by your sex, your race, your social status, your economic profile. All these different things were used to limit and define and box you in. But on top of that, you had a time frame. When you were 18, you were supposed to graduate from high school. When you were 22, you were supposed to graduate from college with some sort of marketable skill that would then give you a job that would pay enough money so that you could have what? You could get married at 23 and start, raising the next generation, right? It was just, and if you didn't pay attention to that schedule, then you were outside the parameters of society. And what happens immediately as soon as you're outside the parameters of what's expected of you, then they start applying pejorative labels. Suddenly you're a spinster.
Right. You can't meet a man. You're just not pliable. You're not easy to get along with. All the negative things that they put on women or whatever nonsense, or the guys even for that matter.
Right. You can't get a wife. You
can't keep a wife.
Yeah, you can't support a wife. You can't do this. You can't do that. And all these pejorative things are used to knock you back in line, get you back on schedule, get back on track. You have to, by the time you're 40, you should be a middle manager at least, and on your way to the big time as a 50-year-old executive. You should be a member in the firm. You should have your nice house in the suburbs with a vine trim lawn. And if you're not on schedule, then boy, you're not making it. You're just not fulfilling your destiny. You're supposed to be my son, the doctor. And what happens when somebody decides that their life is theirs?
Get back in this box. Get back in this box. Like we could just dump out the box. Let's just get rid of the box. So we're here to disrupt and encourage everybody to get out of the box, get out, throw away the box, right? And start thinking. Because if you got an opportunity to think about what you want and why you want it,
Right.
wow.
Here it is.
Wow.
And
What
you're unlimited. You can think about whatever you want. If you want, that's another thing. A lot of what we think we want is actually pushed on us by mainstream media and advertising, marketing.
Oh, you mean like the B movie? The B movie is the notice of this entire plan. It is noticing you that this is your life and it's mocking you, friends.
Right. We're all little bees in our little role that we're stuck with, right? By birth, you don't have any way out of it, so they say. And everybody is according to the schedule, right? And all of this stuff is all regimented.
It's lies. You guys, you got this blank piece of paper here and a pen. And you can just write on there whatever it is that you want to do. And people should. I had my 13-year-old do this, Anna. I had him start scripting. And every New Year's Eve, we would spend the evening scripting all the dreams, all the things. What did we do this year that we said that we wanted to do? And then what is it that we want to do next year? We make the vision boards. And then the best part is when you take the vision board from last year and say, oh my gosh, I did it all. And there's nothing more empowering for our sons and daughters than to see that you spoke it at the beginning of the year, you drew it, and you pasted it on the wall, and here it is. You did it.
You did it. Yes. Well, that beats the usual route, which is life is something that happens while you're planning something else. But
yes, of course. Of course.
And we've all gone there too, where, something happened that derailed our plan. And we wound up having a different experience. But then what do you do with that experience? How do you use that? How do you integrate that in your grand slam plan? And I think that those of us who've lived outside the norm are more aware of the box than people who fit comfortably in the box. And so we need to kind of bring their attention to the fact that they are living in somebody else's box. Somebody else determined, their sense of values, their sense of morality. Somebody else put it in their head that they just needed a Lexus.
No, I mean, but there is honor, and this is the funny part, is that at the end of the day, folks are like, well, if you don't follow the boxes, then the chaos. Oh my gosh, the confusion. No, how about you just honor people and their space? And yeah, there might be a bird that flies through your plan. Why can't you just leave room for the bird to fly?
Right. You need to leave room for the bird. You need to leave room for your own intrinsic, individual, unique, quirky personality. And whatever is true about you, you need to leave room for that and live with that. Because when you try to deny that, you wind up truncating your life. You basically start to choke yourself to death.
Yeah.
And so and all sorts of other damage occurs because of this.
Right.
Now, for whatever reason, I didn't fall in love until I was 32 years old.
I didn't either till I was 29, Anna. I think he was hiding somewhere.
Well, it's just just because everybody else falls in love with the first time at 15 doesn't mean that there aren't those late bloomers among us that take our own good sweet time to do things and figure out certain things about ourselves and then figure out things about the world and come to our own determinations. So Rudolf Steiner was a brilliant man, brilliant philosopher. And he figured out that we all develop on our own unique schedule and that it's unreasonable to put people in a classroom and expect all of them to perform the same things at the same time in the same level and degree and to set up this unnatural grading system and then force everybody to develop according to some arbitrary rule. Okay.
Right.
And so the entire concept of the Waldorf schools was born, which allows each child to develop in those areas at their own rate.
Yep. I mean, the same thing happened with our kids. My kids are two totally opposite. My daughter, she used to only want to read at school and not at home. And then she really didn't want to read at all. And then all of a sudden, she turned 16 and she turned to reading. What? When everybody else is decided to go out into the street and drive around and do whatever. And she drives, but I'm saying she prefers to read. Weird. All of a
Well,
sudden.
but we are all following or should follow the beat of our own internal drum.
Yep.
You know, our own developmental phases, whether it's our development emotionally or our development intellectually, or whether we can do math. One of my sons didn't like math, didn't want anything to do with math, refused to do math. And it wasn't like I ever had any doubt he could do it. It was just that he really profoundly didn't want to do it. Okay.
Right.
And so instead of fighting with him over that, I said, okay, no, forget about math. You don't have to do math. And he was, what? Because he's been told all this time in school, I have to do math. I have to do math. No, you don't have to do math. So I put an end to that whole controversy.
And then he started doing math, I bet, sometime.
Well, what happened was that he went on for 2-3 years. And then he got into something that he really liked to do. And he needed math. He not only needed math, he needed higher math. Okay. So what happened?
He learned it.
Spurred on by what yeah, exactly. Right. And he went through it like poop through a goose. There was no whining, no crying, no backsliding, no having to, fight with him over it. The resistance was gone because all of a sudden he needed to know math in order to do something else that he wanted to do. And so kaboom! And, he aced everything. He got excellent grades in math. And, and so
what do you know? Like, you just have to know how to do things. And sometimes look, the reading, writing, and arithmetic part is going to come into play at some point because they're going to want to do something and they're going to need it and they'll figure it out. And so allowing them grace to do this. Can we just all do this now, even as adults? Isn't this interesting, Anna? With the babes, they all have a bedtime. They all have a bedtime routine that we put them through. Mm-hmm. If we would only do that for ourselves.
Yes, well, and if we could arrange our lives to allow that. Think of how much healthier and happier we would all be if we had our nice little set routine and we got to bed by about the same time every night. Mm-hmm. And it would be so wonderful. And then we could find space for all of our weird quirks.
Right. And guess what? You can choose to do it. I mean, I do it. Well, I don't always do it because something always comes through and will mess it up. But I was doing it for a really long time and I got away with it for a pretty good amount, like a good stint, And if I really want to go back to that again, I think I could pretty much try to do that because you just got to decide that, this is more important than that. And it's interesting how we do actually have the ability to decide what priorities we're going to allow to take over our lives and which ones we're not going to allow to take over our lives.
Right.
If we just know what we want and why we want it.
Well, the last several weeks I've been encouraging people to think, really sit down and consciously think about what kind of world they want to live in. You
Mm-hmm.
know, for myself, I think I want a simple world. No, I want just a very simple world without a lot of interference from external things like the government. You know?
Mm,
And I'm willing to live a moral life. I'm willing not to injure my next door neighbor or to intrude upon their property and their lives. So I think that it's possible to have both a simple and a peaceful life. And so that's what I want. I want a simple, peaceful life. See? And I can think about how that would look and how it would feel. And, it's not hard for me to envision a simple, peaceful life.
right. Hey, I used to be part of this group. I was part of this gaggle. It was a show called Unloose the Goose.
Oh, no.
And uh it's with some friends of mine, and we had a show. It was called Unloose the Goose. And I'm not sure exactly whose idea it was, but it was something that Nicole Sauce and uh I mean some of our friends that they put it together. Anyway, it was that's what you're talking about, because geese don't want to be bothered. Geese aren't worried about anything. If a geese wants to sit in the middle of the road and block traffic, well, doggone it, they're going to just do that. And there's not really very much anyone can do about it. And I don't know any policy officer courageous enough to challenge that goose who's sitting in the middle of the street. And folks will just have to sit and wait until that goose decides to move. It's like, I've known a flock of geese to block traffic on the road for a good amount of time. You might know some of those geese too.
Yeah, well, and really, we all have our own internal radar or our own internal energy or self that has its own unique needs, its own unique calendar. And to the extent that we become familiar with ourselves, then we are able to rule over ourselves and self govern. So there are, in the ancient world, there were two dictums: to know yourself, know thyself, and to control thyself, self govern yourself in such a way that your actions and words are honorable, and you promote peace among your neighbors, and you live a peaceful, simple life. So, this was recognized in ancient times as a rational way to be. So, how have we gotten away from that into this mechanistic world where most people don't even think about what they want? They get it fed to them on the TV. Oh, you want a Big Mac. Oh, you want a Calvin Klein jeans. You want Nike footwear. You want a Lexus. Of course you do. And,
Yeah. Turn blue, turn green, turn blue, turn green.
yeah, and what we really want or what we really need may be something incredibly different than that, but we're not encouraged to think for ourselves and evaluate what our preferences are and what our needs are. We're just being put in this big group for group think purposes, and that's not natural or right. That's immoral.
Right.
Um, and so we have to break out of that group think, big box, everybody wants a Big Mac thinking.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Well, we keep saying, Anna, that lies align with immorality and the truth aligns with morality. And morality is not relative. And there is no walking the line because that's immoral. So you have to pick a side because they want, the corporatocracy wants you to be, oh, you're such an extremist, they say. No, you either know what you want or you don't. So pick it. And you do know what you want, but you just maybe don't want to say it. That's a different problem altogether.
Yeah. I do find a lot of people who are confused who have never thought about what they want.
I know. It's incredible. When you say to somebody, what do you want? They're just like, what? And they literally, like, you can see them going,
They freeze.
yeah,
Yeah,
they glitch. And you're like, no, but seriously, what do you want?
yeah. What kind of life do you want? What kind of world do you want to live in?
What do
What
you
does
even want right now? Okay, we're having a conversation about something, and you're saying that you're not happy with this, but what do you want? What can I do for you?
yeah. And as I've often observed to everybody that will engage in the thought process here is we're not very good at determining why things happen or how things happen or when they happen. But there is one question that we are eminently capable of answering, and that is, what do we want? Okay.
Very, very easy. This is what we should work on for this week, everybody. What you should make a list. I mean, I used to have, I do this on a regular basis. I script, Anna, and I write, what do I want and why do I want it? And especially if I feel like I'm in some kind of battle with myself, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
what do I want? What's going on here?
Yeah.
And within 30 minutes, you can clear it right on up. And you know what's really cool is when you do know what it is that you want, all of
Mm-hmm.
a sudden, everything in your life starts lining up and the universe just starts bringing it all together because you're focused on what it is that you want.
And you just have to leave that to be an open-ended thing.
Right.
I've had people say, "Well, what do you want?" "Well, I want my wife to love me more."
Oh, do you love you?
Yes. Well, you can't force someone else. Okay.
But do you even love you?
Right. So you kind of have to frame the picture correctly. When we say, "What do you want?" we don't mean what do you want someone else to give you, or
Right.
what do you want,
Someone else to do.
or from yourself even. What
Right.
in the most open-ended way possible. What do you
Mm.
want? Oh, you know, I want a friend. Okay,
Mm.
leave it at that. I want a good friend. And you don't know if the person that is your good friend who shows up is going to be, and well, in my case, I did that once. I'd
Mm.
gone to a new city, and I was starting a new job, and all I had was I came here with 3 boxes of books and a cat. Okay, so I was traveling really, really light.
Mm-hmm.
And so here I am in the city, and I basically just said, well, I would like a friend. I'd like somebody to talk to and do stuff with. Nothing big deal, just I would like a friend. Well, guess what? My friend showed up. Here I am, this nice little career girl, very uh, clean cut, college kind of girl. And my friend turned out to be a 6'4" biker.
Not what you're expecting.
Red hair, beard, tattoos up the wazoo, black motorcycle gear, studs, chains. Somebody that, jack boots. I went, this guy is a Vietnam vet, and who could imagine, just say, oh, I was thinking of some other girl like me. I was thinking, oh, a gal pal to run around with. No, instead I get this Viking.
You never know the power of your attraction. You just never really know. And but it's a lot of fun, guys. Like, we should all really try to do that. So I've been just looking over the questions, Anna, because we're at the end of our time here. But
Sure.
most all the questions are kind of related to basically this question. You know, any updates on coordinator GFG communication channels, the banking training and about the banks and banking and bank. And, I know it's always the same question, but
Yeah.
I, I also think that Anna's told us at one point that she wasn't able to read or predict the future. So there's that part of it. And then there's this interesting question that I thought you could put a little light on.
Well, we all come into this world and we don't really know. We don't know who we are or what we are, actually. We just kind of are in a process of discovery.
Mm-hmm.
And along my way, it was revealed to me that, okay, this is, your genesis. This is where you came into this particular universe. And this is, the essential character and being energetically that you are.
Mm-hmm.
And so we all have different antecedents. We all come from a different point of creation or genesis. And so some of us come from other places. We come from other races, other energetic templates, if you will. And so this just happens to be the one that fits me. This is where I arrived from. So, people ask you, who are you? Well, most of the time they're asking, what are you? Okay. Why are you different? Why do you express yourself in a different form? You know, we are all expressing ourselves in a form that we chose. Okay. And we can choose any number of faces. We can choose any number of races. We can choose our sexuality. We can choose all the different ways in which we present ourselves to the world. So, this just happens to be my typical presentment. I show up as a girl. I show up as a white-skinned, blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl. Okay. But that's just an arbitrary thing. That's like you like chocolate better than strawberry. Okay? So this is true for all of us. And when you realize that, then you start tracking back and you realize, oh, well, I've manifested in this way and I've manifested in that way, but what is it that I'm manifesting? There's something behind the persona. There is something which we sometimes call the soul, which is, what is the energetic template in back of all this? So there you have my energetic template. At the moment of creation, that's what I was.
There's also this one other really good question about, have the assemblies been discussing or the Federation giving any thought to conservatorship or guidance for those who have become incapacitated so people don't end up wards of the state?
Well, we do have, there is a reason to consider and always have a some form of a trust organization to take care of those of us who, one way or another, have been disabled through age or accident. How do we care for each other? Okay. And once you understand that there is unlimited resources available to care for people who are incapacitated, and that there really is no reason for this doctrinaire, oh, you can only have so much of this and we won't pay for anything other than that. And, once you realize that that's all just BS and that you have an unlimited palette of options to care for people, then you go back to, well, okay, what's best for this individual? Hmm? And if you have all the resources you need to do whatever is best for that individual, then the the entire paradigm of care changes. And suddenly families are able to keep people at home, or they're able to put their loved ones in beautiful hospice situations where they're cared for and they're in beautiful surroundings, and
So I can fix the problem.
ah and so anyway, once you have your options, once your options are unlimited, then you don't have wards of the state estate anymore. Then you have people who, even if you are completely a vegetable, there are people who will love you and will care for you. That people you don't even know. But if they have the option, they will come and they will care for you.
Yeah.
And so it's more a matter of resources and realizing that we have these resources and that we have control of these resources that makes all the difference.
Yeah.
Now you no longer have a bureaucracy. You no longer have a state of state in the middle. Now you just have people helping people, and they have a limitless palette of things to use to assist. We're no longer limited by a program.
Yep. And I love this, and I'd like to close the show out with Donna Toby. She says, I want a prosperous life to be able to be financially free from any and all creditors. I want to be healthy and happy so that I may be able to help others by showing them the way to their own freedom.
Amen, Donna.
So be it. So be it, you guys. And
Yep.
hey, come see us again next Tuesday.
Right.
See you guys next Tuesday.